Now on NECN, the region's top CEOs share their insight and experience on the issues and opportunities facing New England businesses. This is CEO Corner.
Fiscal cliff round 2 negotiations mean millions of dollars are at risk for the University of Massachusetts. This as UMass and consortium partners press ahead with a massive new supercomputing center located, for some surprising reasons, in Holyoke. What else is coming up for UMass in 2013? And what's ahead for controlling tuition and fees? The CEO of the University of Massachusetts, now on CEO Corner. Good evening and welcome to CEO Corner. I'm Peter Howe. The ongoing fiscal cliff negotiations have a lot of people on edge with very good reason. They have lots of money, potential jobs, and programs at stake. One of them is the president of the University of Massachusetts. Bob Caret is here to talk with us about the potential implications of cutbacks, but also some very exciting things that are happening at UMass. Bob, thank you so much for coming in. Happy New Year.
No, thank you. Happy New Year to you, and thanks for having me.
So let's go straight to the headlines. We hear about, it's a terrible word for television, but sequestration coming on March 1. And the number that I have heard is $32 million potentially at stake for the UMass system?
Yeah, at least $32 million. If it's an across-the-board type of cut in sequestration, we're looking at above an 8% cut in our research budget in particular. And that in itself is about, could be as high as $48 or $50 million actually. And then you worry also how sequestration will affect some of the other programs. Some of them are, like the Pell Grant, are not part of sequestration, but there are other programs related to student aid that could be impacted. So we're worried about that side of it too, not just the research side, but also the student affordability side.
How much does this hit at the medical center complex in Worcester versus the rest of the system? Does Worcester take a disproportionate hit if these things happen?
Probably so. Worcester and Amherst are the most mature of our campuses in a research sense. Of the $600 million or so that we do in our federal R&D, probably just under $500 million of that comes from those two campuses, with Worcester probably a little bit higher than Amherst at the moment, but they're very close. So both of them, if you take 8% of $500 million, you're looking at about a $40 million cut between those two campuses. Probably something on the order of half of that at least at the Worcester campus. We're looking at other programs that could help mitigate those cuts, but and we're hoping those cuts don't occur, but we are planning for all possibilities.
I know you love all your children equally, but if you're talking about great research that's being done and you're trying to make the case to Congress, you really need to not make cuts in this. Are there specific things you point to that are being done within the UMass system that you think really merit special attention to escape the budget axe?
Well, yeah, we try to point out that research in general is sort of the base of innovation for the entire country, and that in this country we've developed our research centers largely at universities, and if we don't fund that, then as a country we begin to lose that innovation. Much of private industry is cutting back on their research initiatives. Many of the drug companies and pharmaceutical companies, for example, are outsourcing that to universities today. So they also become a new source of revenue for us and a new source of resources to continue research in a variety of arenas. So we try to make the case, and we do build on the strengths of the campuses, whether you're looking at a material science at Lowell, for example, and plastics at Lowell, or if you look at Amherst in terms of polymer science, and you look at what Worcester has done in terms of the medical research and Alzheimer's disease and other afflictions. Dartmouth heavily in the marine sciences, and Boston is heavily into the social sciences. So they each have complementary roles in the research world, and we try to push all of those. But I expect that if those cuts occur, since it's agencies like National Institutes of Health and National Science Foundation, et cetera, they'll be largely across the board. There should be some unevenness, but I expect that all of those areas of research will be impacted.
Right. Well, let's take a look at some of the many great things that are going on at UMass that hopefully aren't badly affected by what's going on in Washington. Last fall, middle of November, you joined Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick, host of other university presidents, to open a gigantic computer data center in Holyoke. And the center seen as a huge new hope for academic researchers, the old Mill City's future. We will talk in a minute about the UMass role in all of it, but first let's cue up a story I did with videographer John Hammond back in mid-November, an incredible place that runs on a source of cheap energy that is as vital now as it was centuries ago. In a city built and defined by miles of red brick mills, this is a Holyoke, Massachusetts mill for the 21st and 22nd centuries. The newly officially opened Massachusetts Green High Performance Computing Center, a knowledge mill where researchers from BU, UMass, MIT, Harvard, and Northeastern will crunch data on some of the most complex problems taken up by humankind.
The human genome understanding the cosmos, the elementary particles, doing better weather forecasting, understanding traffic.
And the reason this $95 million center is in Holyoke, the same reason 24 paper mills once came here. Water power from the Connecticut River. In this case, the source of cheap hydroelectric power to run the computing center, which will suck down as much electricity as 750 New England homes, requiring a massive network of cooling pipes and tanks. So here we are inside the working guts of the supercomputing center. I'm about to throw a whole bunch of numbers at you. There are 688 racks like this. Each one's going to be filled with 48 computers, but not just any kind of computer. Each one is so powerful it's like 16 of the PC you might use at work, or 32 iPads. So you add it all up, you're talking more than 500,000 desktop PCs worth of computing power. And if you look around, there's room to expand by several 100,000 more. They'll get 70% of their power from Holyoke hydro dams at a price 20 to 35% less than National Grid or Northeast Utilities. A huge savings for such an energy-intensive facility. And that fuels hope for Mayor Alex Morse and many for a new cluster of knowledge businesses transforming this mill city.
We begin to tell a new story about the city of Holyoke just when people thought that Holyoke would never sort of turn around and become a better place. And this won't do it alone, but I think this has really catalyzed the energy and commitment we need.
Holyoke's best days lie ahead.
So that was mid-November, Bob. We saw you there, front row, right next to the governor. I'd love to have you bring us up to date. And my favorite question as a reporter, what did I leave out? What else should I have told you about what's going on out there?
Well, I think you've hit the high points, and I think President Hockfield gave you some idea of the areas that the computing power of that center will be used and applied in to help us move again our knowledge base forward. It's I think, and the governor agrees with this, one of the most exciting things about this center is the fact that it's a partnership. All of us talk about collaboration and partnership, but it takes time and it takes energy, and often these things don't happen because of that. And here you have 5 major universities working together with 2 major companies, EMC and Cisco, and the state of Massachusetts itself, all of whom have invested significant dollars in the construction of this facility. And I think that's the primary, I think, characteristic for success of the future, because everything we're doing within that facility reflects that partnership. The grants we've received already are a result of partnership. The internal grants that we've given out to serve as seed crystals for future research have been all partnership grants, and we expect to develop more partners as we continue to move the process forward.
How much are you hearing about who within the UMass system is most likely to take advantage of this incredible computing power? I mean, we mentioned the human genome. Worcester obviously comes to mind, the medical center. Are there other areas where you think researchers from UMass will be able to take great advantage of that horsepower out there?
Sure. You know, wherever you have large amounts of data, and people don't think this way, but if you just look at studying a city in terms of its energy usage, in terms of power meters, or if you look at transportation, or if you look at the weather, if you look at how things are shifting, whether it's in the ocean or in the air or on the ground, land usage, there are so vast amounts of data out there that there are kinds of research that you couldn't do in the past because this kind of power wasn't available, where you can take those masses of data and delve into things all the way from transportation and weather to nutrients in the ocean, to things such as molecular biology and the human genome, and how studying the genome in various genomes in various individuals can lead you into various forms of treatment. And all of our campuses are involved. Amherst and Lowell, particularly on the genome and medical treatment process, Lowell on material science, Boston on forest cover, Dartmouth on nutrients in the ocean, just to name some of the projects that are already underway.
You mentioned the collaboration angle to it. Were there any things that were especially challenging or interesting to work out with these very high-powered partners that you had, Harvard, MIT, others?
It is somewhat intimidating, to be honest with you. It's an interesting group of people. We, like any partnership, you need to come together and begin to resonate with each other, understand each other. I think the respect was always there, but you really have to learn to work together. And the presidents have worked well together, but more importantly, the research vice presidents and vice chancellors, the provost and academic vice presidents, and then below them, the faculty themselves have come together. And that's where it really happens. It's the faculty that deliver on these things. Those of us in administration are challenged to help bring these things to life, find the funding, find the political ways to get them done. But we're not going to go in there and do the research. And so it's bringing the faculty and the students that work with those faculty together, and we're seeing that. We have projects already funded that involve, for example, MIT and Amherst, projects with Woods Hole and Dartmouth. And you're seeing it already expand beyond the existing partners to other research organizations like Woods Hole here in Massachusetts, where we intend to continue to do more work.
Any thoughts about how you make sure a center like that spills over some benefits into Holyoke and isn't just an electric rate arbitrage play? Any ideas about how you bring some, good things to that city?
Yeah, we try. I think it's really important. I've always, from the time I began administration back in the very early 80s, there was an article back then that talked about universities as urban citizens. And you can take that word urban out and just basically talk about universities as citizens. And universities are huge anchor institutions in their communities and need to be out there, particularly public universities, working with those communities. So what you're finding in Holyoke, for example, is we already have faculty working with the K-12 schools in terms of STEM pipeline programs, interactive online textbooks and textbooks that bring science to life that have been funded through the National Science Foundation. We've worked with Holyoke Gas and Electric on clean energy workshops. So there's a whole series of things we're beginning to do that will benefit the community itself. And the center itself is open to the community. There are spaces in there where people can come for a learning exercise or to actually participate in the research itself. And so I think it's going to be a significant resource. And as the mayor mentioned in the clip you just played, it's one step in the rejuvenation of the gateway city of Holyoke.
Well, it's certainly a great thing to get kids excited. You could probably tell from the story it got me pretty excited. We should go to a quick break, but when we come back, more on tuition, efforts to keep it down, and a look at what's happening all around the UMass system.